Thank you for listening. Music program, so it takes a few measures. Anyway, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back. We were talking about polyamory.
Yeah. So
you were making a case for it.
That's the whole like biological, and not the whole even close to the whole biological argument, but that's some things that were like interesting to me. I got into this stuff before I was ever in a serious relationship.
Right.
Like I was traveling a lot at the time, and like was
that's just hard to have a serious relationship.
no
then.
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. No, I did distance for 10 months with that same lifestyle. Like that's how I ended up with my current girlfriend. So my experience with polyamory was me reading books about it. And then thinking, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I can live my life like that. Maybe I step away. Maybe this is I don't know.
Well, it's obvious why it's appetizing.
Absolutely appetizing, and it's hard though. Like that's what it comes down to. It's for a polyamorous relationship to work. There is an intense level of honesty that you have to reach, and occasionally reach. It's not easy.
You'd basically have to be as honest as going, I use your body to masturbate.
Yeah, it is honest as that. It's easy like to go. I think he's funnier than you. Like stuff like it's you have to. It hits your ego in such an interesting way.
Right.
My experience with this was not so much because I was in one polyamorous relationship. It was with my first girlfriend, and I was a sailor at the time. I was out 6 days a week working on the tall ship, and then I would come back like for 24 hours, which was enough time to do my laundry, get fucking trash drunk because we're sailors in a shipyard in Maine, and then see my girlfriend and then bounce back out, right?
Right.
And we became girlfriend.
Hopefully you're uncircumcised.
No,
so that's a bonobo technique.
I'm very upset I'm circumcised. There's so many reasons to not circumcise a baby.
You know what's weird about circumcision even as a term is that it should be like because being uncircumcised is the more natural thing.
Yeah.
So it should be that if you're circumcised, then you're un-something. You know what I mean?
If you're circumcised, you're...
Like, it shouldn't be that you're uncircumcised. Yeah. You should just be regular.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
circumcision.
It's weird
is
that's the
sham,
only name we have for it.
It's such
normal.
a weird the initial like that idea where like there was a point in history where someone was like, "Hey, do you mind if I like snip just the like end of the baby's dick? Like I know this is going to be our first baby that we're going to circumcise, and do you mind, ma'am, if I take a little snip and then suck it until the blood stops going because that's what they used to do."
You're not asking your wife for permission.
Yeah, you're right. You're like just cut the boy's dick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so it's the same idea as buying the wedding ring, I think.
It becomes that ritual?
No, that's what the idea of it is that you're giving... Because I think that we underestimate people because they do crazy things like that. I mean, we still do that now to this day. So they're really not that crazy even relative to us. Yeah. But we think about people like they don't understand anything. And it's like, oh, they were just crazy, and so they did that for no reason. It's like, that's not the case at all. You know, like the idea that for a male it is less sexually pleasurable. This is what I've heard.
To be
circumcised.
Yeah. You're cutting off like
I don't think this is something that could be known non-scientifically though, through just shared experience among different people with different life experiences.
I'm pretty sure it's solid that its sensitivity goes down because you're losing a section of the nerves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But this is the idea is that because usually it was related to a religious idea, which is God, and God usually functions in almost any religious context as the ideal, right? And so the idea would be that you're giving up something so sacred and important and pleasurable, you know, and you're offering it instead to the ideal. Yeah. So that's like, and that makes sense as an idea. It's just crazy that people actually go through with it. You know what I mean? Like,
actually snip it.
You wouldn't have to literally do that to commit your life to following the ideal or following God or whatever, but they just took it more seriously back then, you know.
Well, and it comes down to it's fathers make that decision as well because they've been in locker rooms. And they know you remember.
Yeah, you take baths once every 2 years back then. You know, you might get fucked up. The tip of your dick might get fucked up if you have that thing on there.
Your dick stands out in the locker room, and it's the aesthetic thing. It's women say they prefer an uncircumcised.
It does look better. It does look better.
That's a cultural thing.
It is a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing that it's impressed on us that we have no control over.
Well, it's better that it looks like its own thing and not like a radish or something.
But that's only because we started cutting the end off. Why would we care? If we're like, oh, I only like 2 digits on my fingers. It's sexy when we cut the last digits.
You shouldn't care either way. Like the same way. Like
yeah, exactly.
People talk, I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't seen many vaginas in person, but people's, they talk about like, oh, this person has a weird vagina, or like this person has a weird pair of balls or something. Well, what do you even mean? Like, it's not supposed to stimulate you visually.
Well, it's
it's really unimportant.
That's what's crazy is recently within the last so many years.
Unless you're filming, I suppose. If you're filming yourself, then
we are viewing like choice vaginas before we are seeing actual vaginas.
Right.
We are seeing the because of our culture
supposedly choice.
Supposedly choice. Yeah,
right.
It's an aesthetic that's pushed on us by
We're
something we can't
even control.
We're seeing a
lot of random dudes' daughters' pussies all the time.
Are you? Are you talking porn? Are you talking day to day?
I'm saying in terms of porn.
Yeah.
If you're watching porn, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which is what I assumed we were speaking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And porn has developed into this big, broad thing where you can find anything of anything. But
right.
as porn developed and porn was in like the beginning phases of it, it was chosen. It was starlets. It was the people. Like there's someone deciding that girl is more beautiful for that girl, and that's why she's on that. And it's those choices that these men have made to represent.
Or also willing to do that.
And willing to do that as well. And as society progresses, less and less. And now we have more than ever. We have a Patreon built for girls to be like independent porn stars.
Yeah.
Which is like, cool. If you can support yourself, use it, honey. Invest on your way out. Pay for your kids' college. But like it's if
that's
done
a weird
well,
one, though.
It's so weird.
I don't know. If I was a guy, I wouldn't want to think that my mom saved up her college fund with pictures and videos that I could still see of her like masturbating or something.
But are you
or like
grateful?
spitting on some peanut butter?
Are you grateful for your education?
Well, I would just feel badly about it. It'd be like the same way if I found out that all the money my father made was from selling girls and child trafficking or something. I wouldn't be like, oh well, still thank God for the hustle.
But that's a problem. That's a problem. Your mom. I think that's the problem.
I'm just saying it'd be uncomfortable to be like, oh, my buddy could look up my mom right now and show me her. And that would make me feel very vulnerable in the world.
Yeah, and thank God your mom didn't do it. And your mom had the forethought to know that my son is not interested in seeing my pussy, so I don't need to put my pussy out in like a box of like.
It didn't exist.
Parents
back
have
then,
the box of Polaroids, right? And it's your mother's pussy remains in the box of Polaroids.
Maybe some parents.
Yeah,
I don't
my
know
parents
about
are
all
Mormon.
parents.
They don't. Yeah.
Or maybe that means they super do. But
yeah, right.
No.
But it's that there's a decision to publish. There's a decision to publish. There's a decision to cast. There's a decision to how you shoot it. And all those things, we're living in an age where we're seeing all these decisions for years compounded on top of each other be the first pussy we see. And is a pussy decided by whatever the algorithm brought up? There's so many factors that presents the first pussy you see, right? Mm-hmm. And whereas before it was life around you and as life happened, and there was less privacy then because you lived with your families. And now we can view secretly in our little bright screens any pussy we want. Right. But it's that influence where it's like, it's the same reason an uncircumcised penis is less attractive, and I did quotes, less attractive in quotes in America, is because we started cutting it off. It's that decision where it's for millions of men, we're going to cut off the end of the penis and make that the norm. Of course that's going to be the aesthetic. Yeah. Because you don't want to veer from the troop. You don't want to veer from the tribe. So that is why it's hard to be polyamorous in this monogamous world, because this culture is built for monogamy. Whereas polyamory, it's built for a different type of culture, a culture of the much looser bond. Or I don't know. I don't think I can follow you down that road. You don't think so? No, I don't. I think this culture, in the same sense that we have been impressed to be impressed by circumcised penises. We are also impressed to go for the single. You're leaving a lot up to social conditioning. I think so too. I mean, I think it plays a factor. Again, biology. Of course, it plays a factor. Of course, it plays a factor. Of course, it plays a large factor. Yeah. But the idea that polyamory is difficult because of the culture, I don't think makes much sense. I can see how it could make things hairy with your relatives, say, or things like that. But I feel like there's an increasing amount of young people, like where it's probably at this point,
I mean, it's not like irregular to hear about people in or to even meet people, in polyamorous relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that the culture is the thing that makes that process difficult. I actually think that it is the reason that sex exists fundamentally that makes that that lifestyle difficult.
And the desire for sex is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
sex exists is repeat. Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, the reason that sex exists obviously is for procreation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes living a polyamorous lifestyle difficult, is that your brain neurologically is programmed to have certain reactions based on what is supposed to happen biologically when you engage in sex with somebody. And those triggers, like you were saying earlier, where we have not evolved biologically as much as we have like technologically or culturally, which it's hard to it's hard to even say. I don't like even the term progressive. I think it's arrogant. Just because it's never been done before, it doesn't mean it's progress.
Yeah,
you could very well be making things worse.
And we have,
but
actively some
right. Yeah. But so that's the thing where ultimately the point of sex is really not about you. And even sexual pleasure, the reason it exists is to incentivize you to have kids. Yeah. It's not. And it's also to incentivize you to stay with the person you have kids with. If you really think about it, there's oxytocin is the thing that makes that happen.
Yeah, it's the chemical bond. It's the reward.
Yeah, and so, I don't think that a polyamorous lifestyle would be difficult. Which anybody who is in a polyamorous lifestyle would probably admit that there's a lot of difficulty to it. The same way that somebody in a monogamous relationship. Most people admit that there is difficulty to it.
I don't think one is better than the other.
I don't.
That's the case of making.
Well, I certainly think that monogamy is better. But that's why I'm living the life that I'm living. I think that if really the point of sex is ultimately to have kids and to stay together and like each other so that you don't murder your children or leave, so you don't run out on your kids, that... to me, to be congruent with your nature is superior than trying to just override it through your lofty ideas.
And the lofty ideas you're saying is the polyamory.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So
I would say so.
I'm monogamous now because it definitely works best for me. So to take it back, in Maine, I was sailing 6 days a week. I had one day, and me and this girl met when I was on land for 2 months before I set sail. Like we set sail in the summer, but 2 months before. We're fixing up the boat. We're de-winterizing the boat because this is Maine. This is a massive wooden pirate ship, 7 sails, no engine on board. I'll show you pictures. Google the Maine Windjammer fleet. These are the boats I was working on.
Okay.
And it's this crazy lifestyle. I was making $175 a week.
Damn.
And I lived and did everything.
And there's a reason they pay you that much.
Yeah, nothing. You're making no money.
Yeah.
But you lived on board. You got all your meals. And we took a group of 30 tourists out for a week and went sailing wherever the wind took us, wherever the weather tides took us. And we drop anchor every night and just live like pirates. It's a crazy, crazy world and a cool thing to be part of. So while I'm outfitting the boat, I'm working a 9 to 5, so I actually had time to get a girlfriend, which is rare for me because I was traveling so much.
Right.
I just lost the weight, got this girlfriend. It was super passionate from the get-go, just boom. And then as I started sailing, it started going away. I wanted to keep texting, and she was not having on texting. She had her own life living. Fabulous. There's reasons we're not together. But we agreed polyamorous, and the whole thing was just let me know. I don't want you to hide things from me. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
I don't want you to hide things from me. That's my whole thing too. When you do it, is you have to be honest. You
Complete
can't hide.
Transparency.
There's no cheating because you're honest with each other and allow each other to do that.
There's an idea Ayn Rand agreed with.
We can dive into that later. Blade is so.
You've read Ayn Rand?
Yeah, Blade is so anti-Ayn Rand.
I actually love Ayn Rand.
I think she's fabulous. I think
she's fabulous, but I think she was wrong on that front. Obviously.
Her artistic ideals
and of course,
are something.
Fucking Blade would hate Ayn Rand.
We have a skit where he's trying to rip. There's a scene where it's Blade ripping my copy or trying to rip my copy of Atlas Shrugged.
Wow.
He hates her so much. Anytime he can shit on Ayn Rand, we do just because he wants to. And I'm
That's fascinating. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So her artistic integrity and other things like that, I super vibe with. Gross. That's a gross way to talk.
It's okay.
But her other stuff and her structural and real world examples falls apart. It's her her ideals and other things like that work in a world that Ayn Rand built, and she did her as a narrative, as a story with characters and depth, powerful.
Well, there's a lot to Rand's work where you go, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
Which is actually the point of the end of her novel, where everything falls to pieces.
Which one are you talking about?
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged. So I've read Fountainhead. I have not gone through Atlas Shrugged.
So Atlas Shrugged, I think Fountainhead's better.
I think
it's a better piece. It's an amazing book.
I read Fountainhead on the boat just to bring things full circle, dude.
It's
like
a better.
Me and Jeej went sailing.
Well, the thing about Atlas Shrugged is that it also becomes there's portions of that book that isn't even really a story. It's just a philosophy book, and it took her like 13 years to write. It's this huge book.
It's a monster,
it's preposterously big, and so. There's parts where obviously you're like, well, is this really even going anywhere? Like, there's just so much stuff that happens. Well, so I'm sorry, I guess, that I spoiled the ending for you.
It's okay.
But that's a lot. Her counter to that kind of criticism where it's like, this doesn't work in the practical world is basically, well, it would if people actually did it, but people won't do it. So you might as well just tell people about it.
Exactly.
And then try to live your life that way.
I think everyone, all ideals and other things like that would work if everyone was like you. It's whatever your ideal is.
Potentially.
That's the whole
Maybe
thing.
not everyone, but there's a lot of them that would certainly function to like an acceptable level.
I think
if
we need
everybody
pieces of all
consented
of
to
them.
it.
I think that's the problem with our world is you would like to frame it the one ideal, one way of life, whatever it is. But the problem is we need pieces of every single one in different places and different times of life, which is so broad and washed or whatever. The whole point of having an ideal is the ideal version of it. But I don't think anyone's right, and I think no one will ever be right because this world is crazy complex, and we can figure it out maybe 50 years.
Do you think there is a right?
No. I kind of shy away from that kind of stuff. Yeah,
okay,
not
I
really.
understand that.
Yeah, I like it's because I grew up Mormon. I grew up in a very strict black and white kind of view, morality and things like that. My parents were extremely open-minded, but like the culture I was brought up in and the people I was surrounded by, Fuck, I lost it on that one. What was your question?
It's all right if you blacked out talking about your Mormon upbringing.
Right? Yeah.
That's totally
it's easier
fine.
not to remember. Oh, it's that strict morality, the duality of it. I think it's a fun concept to play with, and it's a fun and efficient way to look at moments in your life and decide what was worth doing, what was not worth doing. But when it comes down to it, I don't think it holds any meaning or anything like that. It is all self-defined. I think it's whatever you make of it. Christmas is whatever you make of it. Life is the same way.
Or like rape.
What?
Or like rape is like just whatever you make of it.
Yeah, if you make of it. Well, consent is how you make of it.
Well, no, if you actually, the person it's necessary in order to rape for the other person to not consent.
Yeah.
But that's just what you make of it, you would say.
Exactly. Yeah, it's what they make of the experience.
Right.
But no. I
so potentially a victim could just see it in sort of they could see it. Oh, what is that one guy, Viktor Frankl? Like in a logotherapeutical way.
I don't know Viktor Frankl.
Well, I'm not going to go into it because it's too interesting of a topic for me to, as James May says, gloss over. So I don't want to gloss over him. I did want to. I've loved this conversation, by the way. I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been super fun. But I wanted to sort of wrap up with just talking a little bit about like your aspiration, and in some ways my aspiration, not really, but similar, similar. I'd like to talk about things like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Because this is would you say it's like your passion?
It's the goal.
Yeah, it's like the thing that you just have in you. You need to try to do it.
I love it.
Absolutely.
It's something I've always been really fascinated in, and it's something like the traveling and all that kind of stuff. The point was like to live a life worth talking about, to develop a perspective.
Okay,
like
so you had the stand-up idea before you did all that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's always been fascinating to me. It's such a crazy, interesting, weird thing.
You've sort of lived your life with it like a degree of separation then.
In a
almost.
sense.
Where you're almost living for the story you can talk about later. You're still like trying to achieve a later goal that's higher to you.
Yeah.
But that is interesting to literally run your life as if you're writing a novel and reading it. Or reading it,
Not necessarily, though, because there's no It's when I lived it. Like,
there wasn't a master scheme.
Yeah, I wrote. Okay. When stuff happened and something crazy happened, it was like write that down. But it wasn't like in no way it was that there were a master scheme or is a master scheme.
I see.
The plan is like sharpen your knife in the woods. Do what you can when you can.
Yeah.
And like there's no, there doesn't. I don't know. It's so weird because it's not that in any way I live life to talk about life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that idea of if I live it, do it for the bit.
Talking about life can be living life.
Yeah.
Also.
And that's fun for me. It's storytelling, conversation, all this kind of stuff. It's so interesting to me. But it's so tooly talking about stand up in this way. But
no, I understand.
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
In no way, I guess. But stuff happened. It's like take the note. But the idea was I came from Utah and I've heard stand ups on Kill Tony and other things like that of like Mormon grown and like I've been that person and like had the Utah perspective, the ex-Mormon perspective, and I was like, fine, that's fine, but I can see how useful that is to like as I'm watching Kill Tony and in that sense, and it was like it's not that it was like I need to go on the road to become a better stand-up. It was no, I need to go on the road to become a better person. I need to. It's in no way. Stand-up is like the end goal where I can maybe settle down and have a thing and a craft to work on. That travel and all that kind of stuff was just like, what the hell, go for it.
Right.
Like it was being lucky and going and just putting yourself out there and ending up in weird places and then just meeting weird people and just as that grew, so I spent 2 years. I did high school, graduated high school. I did 6 months in Florida. I did 6 months in Maine, working on the boat. So Florida, I was working day jobs, and I was a tour guide down there. And then I worked on boats in Maine.
When you were doing tour guiding, would you like try to make people laugh?
Yeah, it was. Well, that's when I realized stand-up was always interesting to me. But when I started working on Florida as a tour guide, that's when I was like, oh, fuck, this is cool.
So have a bunch of people laugh at something you just said.
It's an incredible rush. Like
it is an incredible rush.
Like it's an incredible feeling, but it was also the monetary aspect of it. It was. I realized if I paused at the end, I talked about this on James Mays, but if I don't know why I said that. There's no reason I can go into it here.
Well, I love shouting out his podcast. Yeah. If anybody is listening to this, please check out James Mays' work.
Yeah.
Please do.
There's a lot of it, dude.
There's a lot of it.
5 podcasts now.
And as long as you smoke something, drink something, watch it with a buddy, you'll have a great time.
Yeah. I was on that. You've been on there.
I've been on there so many times, man. I love his fucking podcast. I think he's actually maybe a little mad at me right now.
Really?
Yeah, because I keep talking about him on different people's podcasts. And it's not always positive because, his comedy sucks or whatever, but it's... Sorry, that's become my running gag at this point. I always say that. But that's also why he might be upset.
That might be why he's upset at you.
But that's okay, man. He can say what he would. I mean, I'm sure he would say my music sucks.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah. Think it sucks.
Fuck. Where was?
You were talking about being a tour guide, making people laugh. Yeah, it's this immediate shit. Whatever I do in my life, if I can continue to have that feeling, then that's great.
That's nice, but it wasn't. I wasn't trying to make people laugh.
Okay.
It wasn't. I was there to be a tour guide.
Yes.
It's whatever.
I'm just saying that was when I thought that my understanding was that when you had that first little taste of something like that.
I think that was younger. I absolutely think what made me realize this was the biggest thing for me was tips. It was this is something you don't get in stand up. It's something you get with tour guiding, which is a really interesting thing. Is people tip you at the end of your whatever set. It's right. In Europe. This is how they do amateur comedy. Is you pass a bucket around the room after your set, and people are like, "That was fucking funny. Here's $5."
Sure.
Right? It's a really interesting, different economy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how they do low level comedy up to actually a lot of comedy. I think theaters is when they step away from that structure. I don't know. I've never been. So comedy, it was interesting because at the end of the time, end of my hour spiel, 60 people get off the boat, and I count the money, and I go, huh. And then I'm on the microphone doing a 1 hour tour, 10 hours a day. I was working 5 days 5 days a week. I was working on the microphone or behind the bar on this boat, or I was working on yachts because that was the goal and yachts is kind of like comedy where you do little day work is what they call it. You do all the jobs that normal crew members would not want to do, and you just build your you build your network and you build your experience through day work, and you're always looking for the next day gig, right? It's all day work. to get into that industry, to build your resume. So on the weekends I was doing that, and then I was running on the microphone. I was tour guiding and all that. And there was a pause. If I paused at the end of my tour in a very specific place, it would have a $20 difference in my bucket after the tour. And it was. Thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. My name is Theo Blue, or my name is Theo Bates. It's been so happy. Whatever. I gotta go tie up the boat. Toodaloo. Right? I'm out. Bomb. But if I go, guys, it has been so fun. Thank you so much for riding with me today. Pause. Right there, it's like, oh, he's ending. He did an hour thing. We clap now, right? That's what it is. If I was able to talk through that end thing and be gone before the applause, in a very interesting sense, that would affect how much money I made, because the applauding, they were like, we gave him what he deserved.
Interesting.
Right? And it was that specific pause was whether or not I got applause and where I got the applause. And so it was manipulating where the applause, because it's a tour guide. It's not stand-up comedy. It's
right.
It's a tour guide. At the end, you're like, wow, good job. Clap, clap, clap. It's not like anything impressive. But depending on where the applause landed, had a monetary difference, which is fascinating. And it's that magic words, that I say this equation, this combination of words, and you flinch with joy, like ha ha ha, like it's so weird.
To you, it's like really constructing something specific.
Yeah, you are constructing something that is trying to get a desired result.
And so, because I've seen you do stand up a couple times, and you do a lot of the same material when you do it.
Yeah.
So this is a deliberate thing. Do you try to even like even your inflection, your intonation, you try to do it exactly the same almost every time?
Not every time. No, when I'm on stage, I try every time I get something to stage, I try to keep it different, fresh, something new. I'm looking for a specific spot throughout it.
Yeah.
Like there's little changes that like I honestly don't think aren't even like it's dumb. Like sometimes it's like I don't know why I'm running this bit again because I changed one word.
Right.
Right. But it's stuff like that where it's just like I'm interested, just play with this idea, and that level of is. Let's see. I also run it multiple times before I get on stage. I try really hard to be professional about it, where I have like it dialed in, and I don't like play with the idea of like it's funny because it sounds off the cuff. No, I'm on stage. I'm doing stand up. You should know that this is prepared material that I've thought out before. So I don't think I need to waste time hiding behind the illusion that I just came up with it, because there's no reason to that, and I'm not that funny off the cuff anyways. Right? I think if I have better odds and better shot if I put my head down and write like crazy, rewrite.
Right. And how do you get to that stuff where you go, here is this piece that's solid now, and I can say these sentences, and I know that at least for the most part, I'll get a good reaction. How do you find those things?
No, that's the crazy.
It just kind of randomly happens.
You feel it every once in a while. I'll read back on something, and I'll be like, oh, I like that. Like I write a lot of rants and then go back and like try to figure out how to make I got the framework, but I can't funny it yet. Or it's like that kind of thing where it's rewrite until something kind of sticks. And then once it kind of sticks in a way where I'm like, I kind of like that concept, or that idea is interesting, or I like whatever it is, you start going into line by line and making the funny, and then the performance part of it and the memorization.
And making the funny, you would say, just happens naturally.
I think that happens throughout my day in a weird sense.
Like you can't force it because it depends on the other people's essentially agreeing with it or not.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, and that's where recording your sets comes down to, is where is there empty space and how to fill that space. And it's after I have like the initial, I have no idea what that point is, but there'll be a point where I was like, okay, this is good for stage. Let's start learning how to perform this. Because you learn how to perform the piece, then you realize what spots are missing in your writing. And it's you got to build. I try to build something pretty flushed out, like 60% there by the time I take the stage, and then over time try to flush out. But I don't think I'm done with any of my bits. Everything is ongoing and slow, and I think I work slower than most people.
Well, it's also hard now because there's just not really any place to do it.
Yeah, there's no it's in low incentive to do it right now. But
right,
it's still
I really sucks.
Love it, man. Tease is black. You should come out to Tease. It's been fun.
I would come out to Tease, which for those of you listening who doesn't know, it's like a little bar, and they do like open mic Tuesdays, I guess. I haven't been able to go because I work every Tuesday night. And I have a consistent work schedule. But if I ever do get a Tuesday night off, because at this point, it's been almost a year since I've done any stand-up.
Oh, really?
So I would love to try to do that again. I'm sure I'd eat it, but that's not so bad, honestly. It'd also just be nice to see everybody again.
Yeah.
I ran into Dave last night.
Dave Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I ran into motherfucking Dave.
Where'd you bump into Dave?
I bumped into Dave at P.F. Chang's.
Yeah. So we're neighbors. I see that dude.
He was so polite.
He's
a great guy.
really
he
good
led
guy.
me right to that table. He got us like a little plate and stuff to share our noodles with. It was great.
Yeah, I bump
He's
into
a solid
on
dude.
my break all the time. Like me and him chat like maybe 3-4 times a week sometimes.
He's great.
Like I just work on the next corner, so sometimes we're on breaks and we just bump into each other.
Right.
Yeah, he's funny. He has some that dude. He was like, he goes, hey, he's working on this like slave owner play that is very funny.
Jesus Christ.
Very
okay.
like very well done and interesting, and like his bits that he's been running from and stuff like that are very funny. But he's like, hey, I'm trying to shoot this thing, and he's like, you have like the look of like a plantation owner.
I see that.
He was like, I would love you for this. We put you in old timey clothes.
You kind of look like a more slovenly Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, that's so flattering.
But it's kind of true.
No, I appreciate it. Like that's.
Would you say that you try to dress funny, like for stand up?
No.
Okay,
No,
that's
no,
good. Because I thought when I first saw you do stand up, you were wearing something crazy, which you're wearing something kind of funny to me anyway.
I don't have a lot of clothes. Like I buy weird shit and then like just
right.
like throwing it.
Well, and that's totally fine
Yeah.
if that's just the clothes you like to wear.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I remember
have.
the first time I saw you do stand up, I was like, "Fuck that guy, dude. He thinks he's dressing funny or whatever." But it turns out I was just an ass.
I worry about that more. I worry about like people like you who's like, oh, he's dressing funny for the stage. It's like, no, this is just like how I. So
you can understand why I would fucking hate that.
Yeah,
shit.
it's fair, but it's. I grew
God.
up jerking off to Vogue, not Hustler. Like my parents, my mom was a designer, and that was like the magazine that Sneak Away was.
This is
Vogue.
where your influence.
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
I see. That makes
and
a lot
like
of
other
sense.
Marie Claire's and other things like that. Like, so it's I don't know. It's just clothes are very. I have a weird thing with clothes because of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wish I could come out to these. I promise if I do have the night off, I will. Because it's I like all the people there. It's always a good time.
You're definitely missed, man. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. Fucking Blade Frank said I never come up. I was like, well, fair enough, because that's the thing is like I'm not even a part of it anymore, really. Or it's hard to even say I was a part of it because I just would go to the open mics. You know? And it's hard for me to become friends with people ever, genuine friends, because I always look at it as such a thing. Like you were talking about earlier, before we were recording, of being like, I'm going to spend the time like I'm getting paid to do this. Yeah. You know, that's the idea. Where I already am in that mindset where I'm like, we're trying to run a business here. You know what I mean? Like, why the fuck do we have to hang out afterward?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always funny to me.
Yeah, we're here to work.
That's the interesting thing. I've met so many people in the community, and again, they're nice people to spend time with. Like, I enjoy their company as people.
Funny fuckers, dude.
But it's so interesting to me where it's like sometimes that people cop that attitude where it's like, well, if you don't want to be literal friends with me, then I'm not putting you on the lineup, kind of thing.
Which is so weird.
Like, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
Is that how you would hire your employees at a store you owned?
Yeah.
I guess maybe, but you probably have a shit store. you know?
Amateur comedy plays like that line of like not professional.
You're not really in the world yet, but
not even close.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, you're pulling favors to get on stage at this point. Like it feels like because you were such a burden to whatever show was going on. Yeah,
right. No, that's the common strategy is to try to suck a little dick.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say I ever fell into that, but I definitely was in the camp of like, I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings. Like, I shouldn't be honest about that because I'm scared of this. I'm like, dude, fucking whatever. Like, realistically, it's like, oh, you miss a spot working 5 minutes at some bar somewhere. You're like, I mean, obviously work is work, so go for it. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, sometimes I feel like I come across where I'll say things like this, and people will be like, what a fucking douche. I'm like, I'm not saying treat people like they don't matter or their feelings aren't important or whatever. Like, if you're treating it like a business, then be rational. You wouldn't walk up to some guy that you were trying to work at his store and be like, you fucking retard or something. You know, you wouldn't do that. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't understand. I just don't understand it. Where, like, if I were somebody that was booking a place, I wouldn't be interested in a guy trying to suck me off. You know what I mean? Like, I'd want to be just treated like a guy.
But
there's
there's guys who like that. Like,
I know, but I'm like, why do you like that, dude? I'm like a 20 at the time. I'm like a 21-year-old broke dude with nothing going on, and it's like I obviously really like this thing. Like, why does that even factor in? That I suck your whether or not I suck your
whether
dick.
or not you're nice to you in the back. Like,
Well, be nice, but I'm just like I don't get the whole like they're amazing
because that like. Open. We are at the minimum level. We are at we are the worst open mic of worst open. Like
the anonymous
Tease
people.
is not a good spot. Like, you're, like let me be very clear.
Right.
Tease is 8 other comics sitting in an arcade.
Right. Talking
like
to each
a
other.
Weird drunk arcade.
It's fun though.
It's so much fun. And then maybe like 2 audience members. If you're lucky, you have a couple show up or something like that.
Right.
And so you're doing bits to guys that's heard it and guys that are sick of hearing it. And Tease generally is like just doing the rep to do the rep. But it's so good to see the dudes that like it's a good hang.
It is a good hang. It's better than going to just a bar on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
and especially if you love stand up. And then that's the thing too. Like I've had nights there where it's like it's horrible. I've also had nights there where it's surprisingly it's like really fun.
Oh yeah,
it goes awesome.
I've had really shit.
And
like nights there where it's just like this is dead. Like it's dead tonight.
Just
like,
Rob wins breaking his phone all the time. He just throws it everywhere. I don't actually know. I haven't been there in so long. I don't know if he's still on that booze all the time. But
stand-up is interesting because it's the hang is part of it too, though. It's like that's
it's
just
part
much
of
a
it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun for sure.
Is that's how you get a gig at the early level? Is this dude fun to get on the road?
I know that's the thing though, is that it's like. While that totally makes sense to me, I'm totally down with that idea because if you are going to spend a lot of time with somebody, you don't want them to be somebody that's horrible. Like, if I were hiring a person, I would rather hire somebody that was a little less good. Still had to be good. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't choose a person I liked more that was just bad over a person I didn't like that was good.
Yeah.
But you could be less good and like, well, if we're driving, 10 hours collectively to and from a place. Fuck yeah, dude. I want somebody that I'm going to at least somewhat enjoy on that car ride.
Absolutely.
But then it is also like a weird thing where it's like, well, it cheapens your product too. It makes your product worse.
Yeah, you want to present
you won't
a
give
better
as good
show.
of a show. Yeah.
It's
like what, and then where do you balance that? It's very difficult.
It's a really ambiguous industry. Like there's there's no one way to do it. There's no set track to take. There's no guarantee or anything like that. It's you're stuck to finding your own way. You can look at the guys who've been there, but it's a crazy time to come up, and it's always shifting and new and crazy. There's no way to put your thumb on it. And like anything I've been saying is I consider myself an absolute newbie at this, and I have no idea.
Me too, and you should.
I'm blown away by how interesting it is, and as you get deeper and deeper, how I know it seems this world, no matter what you dig in, it seems to get more interesting. It's bedrock of paradoxes.
We're very much blessed to live in reality.
Yeah, we are. Cheers to that, man.
You know what? I think that's a great note to wrap it up on.
Yeah, it was a good one, man.
Theo has been a lot of fun. We'll have you on sometime in the future.